wish you could know now what you'll know when you've been married 50 years from now about what it takes to have an incredible marriage? Well, the wait is over. Join me today, and I will share with you what I have gained in 33 years of marriage and through coaching hundreds and hundreds of couples that every couple must know, no matter how long you've been married, about what it takes to have a thriving marriage. Let's talk about the 9 things that it takes to really have a marriage that is mutually satisfying. Let's start with number 1, which is the little things become the big things. Think about it. It is the rudder that moves the ship. And the biggest little thing in a marriage that I believe there is bitterness. Bitterness comes in small doses and it begins to grow like mold over time. It is the little things that make the big things. And while bitterness is the biggest ones, there's tons and tons and tons of other little things in the marriage that make the big things. In this moment, I'm focusing on the bitterness. My husband and I, we had a lot of conflicts around household responsibilities, budgeting, around our conflict style, how we fought. I wanted to deal with it immediately and he wanted to, think about it and wait. Or, we fought about how we spent our free time. All of these things were little things. They started out as little arguments and then they became big arguments. And then that was what led to the failing of our marriage that thankfully we restored. But wow, it came pretty close to being impossible to restore. So the little things are the big things. Number 2, you are 100% responsible for creating a mutually satisfying marriage. It is not 50-50. I get that that is a common statement. It is 100%, 100%. Now, the hardest thing is you want to focus on where your spouse is not giving their 100%. Those may be important conversations, but I can guarantee you the moment that you're upset that they're not giving 100%, you're not giving 100%, because when they're not giving 100%, that's something to get curious about, not something to get upset about. But when you really recognize that you're 100% responsible for creating a mutually satisfying marriage, the marriage becomes this beautiful resource of double perspective, double insight, double wisdom, double creativity. But when you each, like you take your areas and I'm 100% responsible for these areas and you're 100% responsible for those areas, I'm not saying you each need to take 100% responsibility for every single area, but you both need to take 100% responsibility for how that area flows into all the other areas of your marriage. Third, must know advice for marriage is the purpose of marriage is growth. Now, I have a whole nother episode on what the purpose of marriage is and why it's growth versus love that I'll get into, and you can check that out. However, in this episode, I'm just sharing with you, must know advice is the purpose of marriage is growth. Think about it. When the two of you fell in love, you grew a foundation big enough to support you in the beginning stages of marriage, in setting up a household, in, balancing work and marriage and bringing your finances together. And as life goes on, as you get more and more responsibilities together, which hopefully you will, you're not going to stay in the same place of love and the same place of, challenges and responsibilities in life that you had in the beginning. That's going to keep growing. You're going to start, you're going to move to bigger financial responsibilities. You're going to move to bigger career responsibilities. You're going to add children. You're going to be adding a lot of responsibilities. That foundation needs to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's the beauty of living life together every day, is you get to keep growing this foundation so you can grow this thing, this beautiful marriage together. All of this growth that you're going to face is going to require your individual character development. And that's the most beautiful thing that can come out of the marriage, is you can become more and more self-aware, more and more aware of how to turn beauty into ashes, how to, transform the tension, release beauty out of the chaos. That's the beauty of what can happen when you really let marriage be about your individual growth and your ability to give 100%. The fourth most important advice, must know advice is tension is how growth occurs. Now, our natural tendency in marriage is to want to avoid the tension, right? We're about to head on a date and some little thing comes up that whoop, makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up, or your spouse responds with a snide remark or a negative tone. Our tendency is to want to avoid that. But growth occurs in tension. And it's everything in nature points to this. Think about how a plant grows. A plant actually, we think it grows because it gets enough sunlight, it gets enough water, it gets enough nutrients. That's actually not how it grows. A plant grows when its roots come up against an obstacle and it breaks through that obstacle. That's what actually produces the growth in plants. Your marriage is just the same. Your marriage is like a living, breathing entity that needs conflict. It needs tension to produce growth, not tension and conflict that escalates and blows up and you never work through. It's your ability to break through tension that is going to create the greatest growth in your marriage. And before we go on, I just want to invite you into a really powerful resource that I offer called Marriage Growth Community. It is going to help you apply all of these first things into your marriage, build them into your marriage, and all the rest that are to come. It is powerful. It's going to give you teaching. It's going to allow me to coach you. It's going to give you a community of support. If you want to know more about the Marriage Growth Community, click on the link below. It is a closed membership. So membership may be closed right now. If it is, get on the wait list. And if it's open, make sure you grab a spot because it only opens up a few times a year. So underneath this video, there is a description for this video. And the first link you'll find is the link to learn more about the Marriage Growth Community and either join or get on the wait list. Let's look at the fifth must know advice for creating a marriage worth having, and that is negotiate everything, right? Negotiate everything. Your job is to create a mutually satisfying relationship. And it is the little things that are the small things. Maybe it's where you decide to put the kitchen scissors or the scissors in the house, right? And both of you keep needing the scissors and you keep fighting over the frickin' scissors, right? That begins to create the tension, that begins to create the bitterness and the resentment. Why not just negotiate where both of you want the scissors put? That's going to resolve a whole lot of tension and a whole lot of conflict and create a whole lot more mutual satisfaction. You both need to be bought in, right? So many decisions you're making, so many little things about how you're going to spend your weekend, about how you're going to raise the children, about where the children are going to go to school, about which vehicle you purchase, about how you fight. Everything in your marriage, whatever one of you decides and the other just kind of goes along, you're not each bought into that. So it's going to be a continual source of tension, a continual source of conflict and bitterness and resentment, unless you choose to negotiate. Negotiating, learning how to negotiate is vital to create a thriving lifetime marriage. Number 6 is spend 90 minutes every week talking about the business of marriage. Your marriage is the most important relationship you have in your life. There's a lot of things to talk about. For those of you that run a business, would you ever run the business without having meetings and getting your team, getting connected with your team and your business partner on what's happening, what needs to happen, what's not working, what do we need to do to get it working? These are the important conversations you need to have as spouses every single week. You're talking about the small things before they turn into heated conflicts. You're learning how to grow a partnership and how to partner in the small things and have each other's buy-ins in the different areas that each of you tend to take, the lead in. These 90-minute conversations are where you get each other's buy-in and you partner together so you don't feel alone or the weight of this area all alone. You actually are working together while each of you take your areas and, do the greater leading in them. You still have each other's buy-in. Number 7 must know advice is never stop laughing and playing together. Laughing is that disc between your vertebrae. I've had 2 herniated discs, and if you've ever had a disc that is deflated or pinched or, you know, um, herniated, you begin to know how important those discs are to your vertebrae moving. Every single movement hurts when those discs aren't hydrated well. And that's exactly what laughter and playfulness is in your marriage. Think about it. It's what brought you to fall in love. It's what's going to keep you in love. I encourage you every week to do a minimum of 30-minute play and 30-minute chat. Each of you trade off leading those. Keeping the laughter and the play in your marriage is vital. If you've not done that, my husband and I had not done it. We did it in the beginning. We stopped doing it once children came along. And 20 years in, we realized we couldn't remember the last time we had laughed together. So it's not too late. We began building them in, and every week we have times to play and laugh together. And it is vital to what keeps our marriage exciting and alive. Number 8, you need each other. Make sure your spouse knows how much you need them, and not in a complaining way, but in a way where you actually communicate, wow, you really made a difference for me today when you remember to ask about that meeting at work. You really made a difference for me today. It means a lot. When you notice the dishwasher is empty and you take a few minutes to put your dirty dishes in there, right? Whatever it is, let each other know what you need from each other in a way that the other person is grateful for knowing that you need them that way. And talk about it. Learn how to need each other. The common way in the world is to need no one. That's what we grow up learning, right? And when we get hurt and when we get offended, we're just like, I don't need anyone. I can do this alone. So then you come into marriage and you think love is going to keep you connected. It isn't. It's how you need each other. And there's less and less reasons in the current world for us to need each other. It's a vital piece for you to recognize how much you need your spouse and help them know the beauty of what they do and why you need that from them. And you giving that to each other is vital for making the marriage work. And the 9th, must know advice about what's going to keep your marriage alive and thriving for a lifetime is your areas of opposition is what attracts you. Opposites attract. And those areas of opposition in the beginning of the relationship, in the beginning of dating, it's like, oh my gosh, it's so cute. Like he thinks this way and I think this way, or she thinks this way. And it's so good. As life goes on, these areas often turn into annoyance. And if you don't learn to let those areas grow you, they will become the areas that divide you. So one of you is really passionate about physical intimacy. The other is passionate about emotional intimacy. One of you has more of an optimistic outlook on life. The other has more of a pessimistic outlook on life. One of you loves to talk. One of you loves the quiet. One of you loves adventure. One of you loves to be a homebody. One of you loves to save. One of you loves to spend. One of you loves to work through the conflict immediately, and the other loves to like, hey, let's just let this breathe for a while. One of you loves spontaneity, and the other likes things planned out. One of you is an early bird. One of you is a late owl. Like the ways you're opposite, they're a lot. And these are meant to be the things that help you grow. Like my husband is a late owl and I'm an early bird. Well, he's helped me grow. I have learned how to stay up later. And he's also learned that he does better when he gets to bed a little bit better. Before those things drove us apart and we just accepted like, well, you're that way and I'm this way and it sucks and we're just going to need to deal with it. But when we actually started learning how each other thought and how each other felt and what brought each other to do the things they did, we started actually our oppositions brought a balance. They started bringing a healing to some of the extremes that was driving us to be these opposites of each other. So let your oppositions bring you into balance. Let them help you grow and learn. I invite you to take the biggest area of a must know advice that I've just shared with you and start just working on that one thing. And I really strongly invite you to join me in the marriage growth community, where we will take these things one at a time and we'll begin to work on them and develop them. And you can become the spouse of a thriving marriage and a lifetime marriage that's mutually satisfying. Thank you for joining me. If you found this valuable, give it the thumbs up. Let me know you liked it, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thanks for joining me.